She's the director of the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Health, and she's working to promote solutions to food insecurity and more. Dr. Marlene Schwartz joins us to share more about the Rudd Center's mission. Plus, she's opening up about how policymaking in the food industry shapes our perception of health. This is Advocate Now. Well, Dr. Schwartz, you're the director of the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Health. Tell us about the center's mission.
Sure. So the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Health at UConn is really designed as a place where we try to fight against food insecurity, weight bias, and use research to inform policies that will make the environment healthier for everyone.
And you're doing a lot of work with wellness policies within schools. What is the Wellness School Assessment Tool, and how is it used to ensure that kids are getting the proper guidance when it comes to their diets?
Sure. So wellness policies have been around for about 15 years, and it's really a place where school districts can try to think about the nutrition environment of the school, the nutrition education they provide in the classroom, as well as physical education and opportunities for physical activity. The WellSat tool is a way of measuring those policies, and our hope is that people use it to really see what best practices are and to find ways to improve the environment of their own school district.
I want to talk about universal free school meals. What kind of impact does that have on a child's life and even on a community as a whole?
So universal free school meals have existed for a while in low-income districts where essentially the school district is able to provide breakfast and lunch for all children at no cost. And we've known for a long time that that was a huge asset for the community because parents don't have to worry about their children getting breakfast and lunch every day. And obviously, it's a lot easier to focus in class if you're not hungry. What was interesting was during the pandemic, because of the emergency, every school district in the country was allowed to start providing universal free meals. And what we saw was that it worked really well. And it really allowed for families across the country to think about school meals the way you think about, buses and computers and books. It's just part of what the school district provides in order to make sure that kids can learn. So right now, some states have changed their state law so that they can continue to provide those meals. So states like California, Maine, Vermont, whereas other states have kind of gone backwards to the old system where people have to pay for meals sometimes. And I'm part of a group of researchers that's looking at this and is really advocating for this to become a federal policy so that meals are available for all children.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk on a larger scale. Social media and influencer culture have played such a big role within the food industry. In fact, recently, influencer dietitians have started spreading false narratives, encouraging users that certain chemicals are actually safe. What hasn't been shared is that these influencers are actually being paid by lobbyists to advocate for these chemicals. How do campaigns like this work?
So what happened in this situation is the World Health Organization, which obviously is a very respected international organization, came out with a report really questioning the safety of artificial sweeteners, or what's technically known as non-nutritive sweeteners. So things that are sweet but don't have calories. And there's lots of them out there. People are familiar with, aspartame, stevia, saccharin is an old one. And people have always sort of wondered about how safe these are. And this report really raised that concern again. Well, this is a big threat, obviously, if your company sells products like diet soda that tend to have these, chemicals in them. And so there were a number of influencers, particularly on TikTok, who were dietitians who started talking about how these products are actually safe and pay no attention to the World Health Organization. And what came out was that they were being funded by the American Beverage Association. And so there was a story about that, and it started to get a lot of attention. But I think what it really raised is the fact that what you see on social media, if someone is promoting a particular product, you should check pretty carefully and see if there's something like hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored, because oftentimes they're being paid to say that. And I think people need to know that they're actually watching a paid commercial, not just someone that they happen to like to watch on social media sharing their own personal opinion.
And I mean, some other tips when it comes to weeding through misinformation around food safety, what should people be on the lookout for?
Well, I think, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I think that's fair to say. And I think people just need to remember that a lot of those messages are being paid for, and to, sort of check the credibility of the source to see what kind of funding they receive. And, stick to getting your advice from other places, like the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, or groups like the American Academy of Pediatrics, for example. There are professional groups out there, and frankly, your own doctor, talk to your own health professionals, people who know you, who know your personal health situation. And that's really the best person to go to for dietary advice.
And I think overall, we need to be very careful when it comes to labeling and reading labels very carefully. I know I look at it very closely in terms of the ingredients and what it is exactly that I'm putting into my body, but especially when it comes to beverages for children, because a lot of times we might see, low sugar or no sugar. That doesn't mean always that it's completely safe, right?
That's exactly right. There's been a lot of pressure on the food industry to decrease the amount of added sugar in their products, especially since they had to actually add a line that says added sugar on the nutrition facts label a few years ago. But one of the things we've seen in our research, because we really study products that are marketed to children, is that they have dropped the added sugar. But unbeknownst to a lot of parents, I think they've added artificial sweeteners. And unlike some ingredients, they're not required to really, spell that out for people. Like, it's not like it's going to say contains artificial sweeteners. In fact, it may say other things like, 100% vitamin C, or things that make it sound really healthy. So what I think is super important for parents to realize is you have to read that ingredient list, and you have to look for the names of things like sucralose or aspartame or stevia, and be aware of what's in those products. And when it comes to children, I really think the safest route is not to provide those products for your children.
Yeah, stevia is a big one, because I know a lot of people who will say, "Oh, here's a drink and it's great because it has stevia in it," And for me, I try to avoid that. Not saying whether it's safe or not, but just going from how my feeling towards it, I just tend to gravitate towards more natural products.
I agree. And, I think obviously adults, and, you can talk to your own doctor about what's safe for you. But when it comes to kids, I feel like we need to err on the side of caution. And we really want to make sure that we're providing ingredients that we know exactly what they are, and where they came from. And the other thing is, you don't necessarily want to train your children to think that everything has to taste sweet. We want kids to just drink plain old water. And so having them get used to drinking water and milk are ways to really make sure that they'll grow up to drink beverages that don't have added sweeteners, which ultimately is going to be a lot healthier for them.
Well, Dr. Schwartz, thank you so much for all you're doing to advocate for food safety, and for talking with us about this today.
Absolutely happy to be here.
I'm Sonia Baghdadi. Thanks so much for watching and advocating. For more stories and content like this, just head to advocate.com or advocatechannel.com. On tomorrow's episode,
the real truth of it is, I don't think that women or people who identify as women or gender expansive folks really are ever taught to feel safe in their bodies, right? They're taught to feel like there is something wrong with them. And that is just a patriarchal lens. There is no getting around that. And the minute that we're not feeling safe in our bodies, or taught not to feel safe in our bodies, then how do you trust your body? How do you trust your gut? How do you know that you should be exploring what is happening to you rather than letting a doctor dismiss you? Because I'll tell you, I was a medical people pleaser. I was like, oh, my doctor knows what she's talking about. Not about this. There are so many doctors who are not educated on menopause at all.
The Advocate Channel is here to be a voice for underserved and underrepresented LGBTQ+ and BIPOC communities. Join the conversation. Subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Download our Roku and Fire TV app. Take us with you. Get the Advocate Channel app on your Apple or Android device. Thanks for watching. I'm Sonia Baghdadi. There's more Advocate Channel after the break.